When it comes to marketing and sales, there's no one-size-fits-all approach. Should you tug on heartstrings with a touching story to win over customers, crack a few jokes to stand out from the competition, or go bold and scare people into buying? Today we'll discuss the pros and cons and which methods we prefer. But first, this episode of Almost Productive Copy Break is brought to you by Crumbs. Life is hectic and the day-to-day responsibilities are unending. Work, kids, laundry piling up, bills to pay. The last thing you need to worry about are some silly crumbs on the counter or leftover bits that fell onto the floor. Leave them there. It's fine. This ad paid for by the colony of ants in my kitchen. Welcome to an Almost Productive Coffee Break, the same bold flavor of our original podcast brew in a single shot. Perfect for those times when you need a quick marketing pick-me-up. I'm Sean.
I'm Julie.
And I'm Addie.
And we are all marketing professionals at New Boston Creative Group in Manhattan, Kansas. So, different types of marketing and sales tactics. I've sort of come up with a initial list we can talk through. I'll just say what I've got so far. So one being scare/pressure tactics, heartstrings, facts, wow factor/memorable, prestige/quality, innovation, and funny. So those are my overall buckets of sort of tactics you can use in your ads. So I figured we'd sort of talk about them, starting off with scare/pressure tactics. So this would be, someone's going to rob your house, you better buy our home security system. Or, we have a big sale today. You totally feel like an idiot if you missed out. So any initial thoughts on those sort of ads that you see? Do those work for you? No? Yes?
Big thumbs down over here. I think in part, I get that they're playing on emotion, that it's an effective emotion to play on, but they also borderline scam. They sound scammy to me.
Agree. I think that there's plenty of room for maybe a last chance messaging. I like the more positive angle of that. So surprise. So act now, get this deal, it's going away soon, versus you're going to be stupid and sad if you don't act now. So that's a very slight nuance, but I think that one is much better than the other.
Right. I agree with Julie. It is a strong emotion, but it feels very short-lived in that, you can only try to scare somebody so many times before they're not going to be scared or pressured by it anymore. And then also it's usually not a differentiator for someone. Okay, sure, but then why don't I just use any of the other products that would also solve this problem? Scaring me into your specific one probably isn't going to work. I might buy a product, but it may not be yours.
Right. And if you think about just our roles as human beings, I'm sorry, this is way too deep for right now. But do you really want to be in the business of making people feel bad?
Right.
In that way? If it's Halloween and it's haunted house time and you want to scare people, all for it. But the rest of the year and your marketing, no thank you.
To go on the opposite end, we've got the heartstrings. And I think I know where we're going to land on this one.
Yeah, surprise. I love them. This will probably make me act. At the very least, I think these commercials are the most memorable because I enjoy them the most. I think that they're very touching. But there is a point at which we become saccharine, and that is not ideal. So it is kind of a tough needle to thread, but when done well, this is by far my favorite kind of commercial or ad.
I enjoy it. I think the challenge for marketers would be, how persuasive is your product in pulling the heartstrings? Because doesn't Coke does a lot of heartstringy stuff, but is it really about the Coke? Not really. It's about the relationship, and they're kind of inserting themselves. If you're thinking about effective marketing, you need to think about, hey, we've got this great ad idea, but does it make sense for your product? And is your product an integral part of pulling the heartstrings?
Agreed. Yeah, I think this one is one of the more effective methods, even if it's not as effective on me because I'm just a cynical person. But I will feel better about your product in general. I think if the effort you're putting into it is to make something nice and emotional, and that can, connect even with the coldest heart in me.
I think that's true. Like, the intention matters. Even if the message and the delivery mechanism doesn't work for you, the image of the company in your mind is positive because that's how they're choosing to present themselves.
Right. Next category is just like straight facts. Like, just tell people, here's my product, here's what it does, and don't try to like fluff it up with too much.
I kind of like this one. I think we touched on this in our local commercials episode, but I especially like this if you don't have a huge budget, because this is easy to do well. Just, this is who we are, this is what we offer, this is where you can find us, we're done. And you're not going to, have a joke fall flat or offend someone by trying to spook them into something. So I think that this is a great avenue for a lot of small businesses.
As a fan of data, a fact is compelling. However, I don't know if that's true for everyone. Someone might question the fact, or sometimes it's a fact that's presented that's perhaps not very persuasive. Like, I was watching our local PBS station, and they were touting one of their sponsors as the longest continuous sponsor for PBS. And I thought, who cares? Like, just play who cares? Like, that's not a meaningful fact to me. So I think, you have to be intentional with that as well.
Yeah, I think the product and the audience matters, and like how the fact comes across. The one I was thinking about is like on car commercials, they'll say something like how many pounds foot of torque or what, and I'm just like, that's not a stat that I care about. Like, I want to know how many USB ports are in the thing. Give me that one.
Is there room for my purse?
Right. How many purse holders does it have is more important. Next category would be wow factor / memorable. And so I was thinking of like Super Bowl commercials is sort of what I had in my mind of someone who's like trying to make a real big impression by doing something sort of splashy.
I think this one has the potential to fall flat. Like, last year, didn't Temu do a bunch of Super Bowl ads, and they were just weird? And it was like, what is happening? And it's like they were bold in making a splash, but it felt kind of off. On the flip side, other brands have done it very successfully. So I think it kind of depends on execution.
Yeah, I think you're getting the most immediate impact out of these, where it's like, oh, you're taking notice. But I also think these go away the quickest. Because like you mentioned, like, what were the ones from the last year's Super Bowl? Like, it's kind of hard to remember what they were. Because like, yeah, maybe there's a bunch of celebrities in them and whatnot, but in all of that, you end up getting sort of a muddled message, and you sort of forget what it was after a time versus something that maybe is just more effective and can sort of stand on its own past that sort of point in time that it was super trendy to do whatever it was.
Yeah. Well, and the thing about wow factor is it only works when it's new. If you've seen it a few times, the wow is greatly lessened.
Yeah, good point.
Definitely.
Next, I have prestige / quality. So I was thinking here, like, oh, you need to own a BMW because it is the top of the line, vehicle, or you need to own this brand of purse because it's hand stitched in Italy and whatnot, and trying to be a part of that group.
I think this one gets to be kind of tricky and heady because a lot of brands that are, well, I don't know, that's subjective, but a lot of the brands that are largely perceived to be the most prestigious don't advertise. So like very expensive handbags, you're not going to see, a Gucci commercial or an ad for the row on TV. Like, that's just not probably going to happen. So then the categories that do, so like cars or exclusive credit cards, I think really have to be done well. I mean, I'm saying this about all of them, I guess. So just make your commercials good. But I think that it's really easy for those to come off cheaper than the goal. And for this one, that's obviously especially devastating to the effect of the ad because you're trying to say how incredible we are. So it really, needs to be kind of perfect to work.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the quality end of this I can get behind if you can communicate to me that your product is made a specific way, that's done right. I will spend a little bit extra to own a thing that I think will last and is, made the right way. But it is difficult to you guys' point, to communicate that, like, why is this way to make a thing the better way? That can be difficult. And then you actually have to do that. You have to actually make your product in a way that is either can match the quality or is good enough that you can build the reputation in order to make it to that standard. So it's just going to take time, even if it can't be effective, if you can get to that point. Sort of in a similar vein, the next one I have is innovation. So thinking about products that are, on the cutting edge or saying they're on the cutting edge of whatever it is.
Yeah, I think that this is a vein that I'm pretty skeptical. So like all of the new AI tools or the VR headsets, since they're new, they're not tested. So not only is this a new piece of technology, it hasn't hit the market yet. So people haven't had time to kind of react to it. So I'm a little skeptical about the claims that it's making. Like, is this actually going to be what you're selling it as or not? I'd like to read some reviews first.
Or there's a fad of someone in an ad telling me they've reinvented sunglasses or shaving or whatever it is, like how terrible this simple item is in your life and how they made it better. And you're just like, no, I don't know.
Yeah.
And then last one I have is funny. Just be funny.
Ding, 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 ding.
Very effective.
Sorry,
if you can do
I feel like that's the winner for me anyway. Who doesn't love to laugh? Although, as Addie has pointed out previously, it depends on how well you execute, because sometimes, especially with local commercials, as we've talked about on this podcast before, it can definitely fall flat. So, but man, when done well, to me, those are more memorable too. Like, oh, and Betty White did this, or rest in peace, Betty. In fact, Sean, when you were reading the tactics, I was like, he hasn't said funny. How can he not? And then you saved the best for last.
Exactly.
In my opinion.
It's not my favorite because Heartstrings is, but it's a very, very, very close second. It's, a great way to connect with an audience. And I feel like this type is what is shared most often on socials or just between friends, like in texts or whatever. I'm more inclined to send someone a funny commercial, like, did you see this, or talk about it, than any other type. So super effective.
Yeah. Yep. It's my favorite. And you guys have brought up a good point that it can be difficult to actually land a funny joke. So you don't always have to be jokey. You can be lighthearted. You can be, casual, and that can sort of lean towards being funny without having to like really be hard on like, oh, we need to have a set up punchline sort of joke in our ad or marketing. Any other tactic categories that you can think of that I didn't have here?
We didn't talk the musical number, which I feel like I've been seeing with a lot of drug companies recently.
Yeah.
That's an interesting one.
Yeah, musical would definitely be its own category, and like everything else, really hard to pull off, I think. But can be very memorable, obviously.
And separate from a jingle.
Yeah. I guess you could do musical / jingle, because if you want to include a jingle, go for it, because they are one of the more memorable parts of ads sometimes is the jingle.
The only other one I can think of is the opposite of luxury prestige, like your differentiator is your price. We are the lowest price. And that's what we can offer you is a great deal. That can backfire. I mean, you're kind of, you're assuming that some quality is being sacrificed, but I do think that there's an audience for that. I mean, Walmart obviously has kind of made that their whole existence, less so now, but especially when they were launching and kind of just getting started, that's their, you know, better prices, low prices, better life, whatever. They're clearly very memorable.
Right.
But they've done it very, very effectively. So I do think that in each industry, there's certainly room for, you know, we might not be the top tier, but you're going to get a great price and we'll offer you a fine service.
Yeah, that's a good one. Well, I think that covers it, to be honest. So if anybody out there wants, you know, help with marketing, we can do any of these. Obviously, we can scare people.
And we will do it well.
And we'll do it well. Yeah, we'll scare people. We'll make them laugh. Whatever you want, we'll do it.
Make them cry.
Right. Heartstrings, sobbing. We'll do it. Thank you for listening to this episode of Almost Productive. Before we go, we'd like to give a shout out to our producers, Nick and Molly, who work behind the scenes to make this podcast possible. If you'd like to learn more about what we do at New Boston Creative Group, you can reach us at newbostoncreative.com. You can also follow us on social media at New Boston Creative on Instagram and New Boston Creative Group on Facebook and LinkedIn. If you like this episode, please like, follow, subscribe, leave a review, and share the podcast with your friends. And if you didn't like the show, feel free to recommend us to your enemies. Tune in next time for some more office shenanigans, thoughts on trending topics, and marketing adjacent insights. Until next time, we hope you have a productive day.